Hey everyone, Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com, bringing you the first day of week 9 of the Powerbuilding 2 template by Barbell Medicine. If you are liking these videos, hit that like button. Also, please subscribe to get notified when the next videos start to land. I'm trying a couple of new things with YouTube. We are doing some novice linear progression with YouTube video making. Got about 20 videos now, so we're going to try and improve some things along the way, and hopefully we get to produce some better content for you guys. I really appreciate you watching, especially if you are making it to the end of these videos. If not, let me know what I should do, if I should make them shorter or talk about something a bit more interesting than myself. So we do have week 9, which is the second last week of the 10-week Powerbuilding 2 template. Today is going to be competition style squats, followed with some incline wide grip bench press, and then wrapping up with some Hatfield squats. So this will be the 6, 7, 8. This will be the 4th week with this variant of movements. So the Hatfield squats I'm really looking forward to. I think I've been getting a great handle on them in the last couple of weeks. I'm also excited to do some singles with the squats because we'd hit 440 last week for an 8 RPE, and my all-time 1 rep max is currently 460. So we're within that striking range of breaking a new personal record, and especially since that was probably close to an RPE 9.5 to 10. I'm looking forward to what we can do with today. You'll see that I have been playing some clips of me in the background, just doing the warm-up sets. If you do follow me, you'll know that I do like to start off with the empty barbell. This is mainly my squat warm-up. I don't do anything other than squats for the squat warm-up. There's nothing else that I do other than start off with the empty bar for about 30 reps. If it doesn't feel good, I will possibly do 45 reps. Other than that, I'll just start squatting, and then my warm-up reps will be the same reps that will be for the working sets. So what that means is, since I'm doing heavy singles today, once I get past 225, I will just start doing singles all the way up so that I can base my working sets off of my warm-up sets. Okay, so we're closing in on the tail end of the squat section of this workout, mainly getting towards the heavier singles of the day. So we just did 425 for a single. It was feeling really good. It came up pretty quick, I thought, in hindsight. Haven't looked at the video just yet, but based on how I felt for the lift, it came up pretty smooth and pretty fast. I think we can shoot for 455 today. Last week was 440. My all-time PR is 460, so I'm going to shoot for 455, and if that feels good, we might bump it up to 465. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself, so let's tackle one squat at a time. We'll get there. One of the things I am focusing on is breathing and bracing to make sure that I have that solid core. You really don't want to be squatting without a solid core. You might say that, oh, you throw the belt on really soon, so how are you going to be working out your core if you're relying on a belt for the entire squat? One of the problems I have with that is that I don't think you could safely say that if you can squat 500 with a belt, you have a weak core. If you understood the purpose of a belt, it's not really helping you support more weight on your back. It's helping you to breathe and brace a little bit more effectively with a belt because it gives you something to push against. Just try to think of pushing your arm against nothing. You can't really exert that much force if you're just trying to push out into nothing. But if you give yourself an immovable object to press against, such as a belt, you'll be able to exert a lot more force if you were to push against, say, a brick wall, where you can engage a lot more muscles because you have that proprioceptive feedback. That's really what the belt helps to do, is to serve as something for you to push against, to fill your stomach, your obliques, and your lower back with oxygen as you take a deep breath and try and fill out that circle around you into as big a space as possible. So with that being said, I'm gonna go for 440 next, and we'll see how that feels, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we just got done with 455 for a single. I think if you play the video back, there's a potential that it was an inch or two bit too high. Hard for me to tell just because I'm not a trained squat judge, but I guess one way to think about it is if it's questionable, it probably doesn't count. But nevertheless, I will take it for today since we are still training and there's nothing else I can do about it. So I think I'm going to call that at RPE 8, 455 for 1, which is great. 15 pounds over last week and 5 pounds shy of my all-time best squat. So I think that's a great win. I think for today I'm going to call it that, leave a little bit more in the tank, and then we'll do some volume work from here on out, and we'll see how the rest of the day goes with the squat. Okay, so we just got done with our first volume set, 415 for 5. That was definitely an RPE 9, probably close to an RPE 10 maybe even. Oh, that felt a lot harder than the single, especially that last rep. Well, the last 2 reps are pretty difficult there. You can see some slight form breakdown. When the weights get difficult, I start to revert back to a more back-focused squat. You can see my knees will shoot back, and I rely on my back to kind of good morning up the weight, which isn't great, but it does get the squat working. So something that I do like to keep in mind during the warm-up sets is to make sure the form is perfect, so you do practice those perfect reps. However, when the weight gets heavy and the fatigue sets in, that form slowly starts to deteriorate, and you do revert back to your tried and true ways. And I know that I can good morning squat up a lot more weight than I can with good form. So not the best thing in the world, but we are getting the weight up. One thing I would like to address is belt tightness. I think, me personally, I don't like the belt on too tight. You'll see some people use the squat rack and really like cinch down their abdomen with the belt, kind of like a corset. That's really not how I like to use the belt. Over the years, I've found if I keep the belt slightly looser, so maybe you can fit the width of your hand down the front of the belt, it's actually a lot more comfortable that way, and it also helps you figure out bracing a little better because it gives you something to push out against and to expand out against. Because when the belt is too tight, it prevents you from breathing in effectively, because we don't want to be breathing into the chest. We don't want that top filling breath. We want to be breathing into our abdomen, our core, our lower back. We want to be breathing down into the body and filling the core with a lot of air. And when you cinch down on the belt too tight, you prevent that just physically. You can't expand out past the belt. So with that being said, I like to keep the belt a little looser, so even when it's on in its full setting, I can still wriggle the belt around and slide it around my torso because it isn't that tight. What that does allow me to do is, within reason, get in a nice belly breath of air, and also gives me something to expand and press out against that is not available to you when you wear the belt too tight. Try that next time. It has helped me a lot in the recent years. It helps that I do have a lever belt, so there's not a lot of adjustment available. So once I've set it, it's set for everything. One of the downsides of the lever belt, but if you can, try wearing the belt one notch or one hole looser than usual. That way it gives you some space to expand into, and it's not cutting off and restricting your movement. So we just wrapped up with wide grip bench press for the day. Pretty happy with today's result. We experienced a 5-pound increase for our top set, as well as a 5-pound increase for our extra volume set. So we ended up hitting 230 for sets of 8, and then followed by 210 for sets of 8, both at RPE 9. So we are experiencing some upward trends for the accessory movement for the bench press. Personally, I like to use either the ring or the index, the ring or the middle finger as the index on that powerlifting knurling bar for the incline wide grip. I'm not too concerned with the wide grip necessarily, because we have already varied the movement by putting the incline in, so the wide grip's just a little extra variation. So I usually like to put my pinky finger on the index for my regular bench press, so spacing it out a little with the ring or the middle finger is a good balance. When I start putting my index finger on there, it torques the wrist a little bit too much for my own personal preference. That's also why I have the wrist wraps on for today, especially when I do the wide grip, just because that wrist angle isn't the best for me. It doesn't feel that great or solid, and every now and then it feels like I might lose grip of the barbell. So that's why I like to use the wrist wraps. I haven't used the belt back. I'm trying to stick with not using the belt for any of the accessory movements. So for those of you that may be wondering why I rely so much on the belt for the main movements, it's because I'm not worried about not getting a training stimulus for the core. Not that that's necessarily a reason for using or not using the belt. It is so that I can get trained to use the movement with the belt, because that's how I prefer to do the 4 main movements. So that way, with the every other accessory movement, I'm not using a belt. That way I'm getting in that beltless training, as it were, with all the other variants of the main movements that I'm doing. So no belts for the accessory bench, squat, everything else like that. So next up, we're going to be doing some Hatfield squats. Last week I did set the support barbell a bit too low. So what I am going to do is set that at, I believe, waist height was where it fitted best for me, and I think that's probably an ideal height. So we're just getting started with the Hatfield squats. I would like to point out what I just found out with the setting up of the support barbell. I unfortunately didn't get it on camera, but if you do set the support barbell too high, your arms can come up and they have a tendency to push the weight back because of the way the shoulders are just working with the padding. So I would opt for being lower than you think rather than higher than you think, because once that barbell support bar is too high and your shoulders come up, they're going to have a tendency, they're just going to want to push that. They're just going to want to push the SSB off of your back, which almost happened. So I'm glad I was able to catch it really quickly. I found it's just below the hips, so kind of where the quad ends is probably a good place to put it. But again, err on the lower side rather than the higher side. So we're doing sets of 10, so we should be able to get some good volume in the legs. Okay, so we just finish up with the Hatfield squats. We're able to bump up to 2 sets of 280 by 10 at RPE 8. I was able to cut down the rest periods this time, so probably only around a 2-minute rest, which is great. Trying to keep an eye on the clock as usual. Today's session took 2 hours and 10 minutes, so a 10-minute improvement from last week. But what's great is we also saw in weights used across all of the sets, so the squats, the incline bench, and the Hatfield squats. We all saw some weight improvements in each of them whilst also bringing down the rest period. So pretty stoked with that overall. But the Hatfield squats, again, take some time to get this setup correct. And if you're able to, note down what settings you use or write it on your rack if you're at the home. But definitely dial that in, because when you get that good setting for the height of the support barbell and the height of the SSB bar, it feels a lot more better and it's a lot easier to manage that movement. What I noticed today was I'm able to incorporate a little bit more arm and back movement into the pull, so I'm actually able to, I'm coordinating now where I'm pulling myself with my arms and my lats as well as pushing up with my legs. So you'll notice as well my stance is a lot narrower, so because of the way the weight throws itself, it shifts forward because of the camber of the bar. It's more reminiscent of a front squat, so keeping the toes a little bit more, keeping the feet in a little bit more closer with the toes spread out a little bit more rather than my regular low bar back squat, it allows me to hit depth properly and feel a bit more comfortable throughout the entire movement, much like a front squat, without having to worry about the front rack position and shoulder mobility, or shoulder pain for that matter as well. I also like to take the handlebars off of the SS yoke bar. It just gives a little bit more clearance between you and the support barbell, just in case something goes wrong and you hit it with a misbalance. There's a bit more margin for error there. So overall, today's session went well. As I mentioned earlier, weight improvements across the board. We're about 5 pounds shy of my all-time squat PR, so just pretty happy with how everything's going. So we have one more squat session before the program is over, so next week we'll hopefully get a new PR. I'm looking forward to that. So another thing to keep in mind is strength isn't linear. So what happened was yesterday and the nights before yesterday, I wasn't getting great sleep. So yesterday's workout of day 4 of week 8 didn't go too well. So it's a decrease in weight, just felt fatigued throughout the entire movement, or throughout the entire session. It just wasn't a productive workout training session. So I got my normal hours of sleep tonight, maybe a little bit more, to try and recover that sleep debt. And today's workout went brilliantly. Got a sweat going, the temperature's rising a little bit, so that feels great. And everything's just tracking. We're getting back on track. So can't stress enough the importance of sleep with just everything in general. You'll feel better, you'll move better, you'll just be more alert. Everything is better when you get the right amount of sleep. So all that being said, that about wraps it up for the first day of the second last week. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you watching. If you have any suggestions for future videos, what you'd like me to cover during the workout set, or just future videos that I plan to make, which would address some topics that you would like, leave a comment below. As I said before, like and subscribe. I'll leave links for my blog, WynnStrength.com, where I put a weekly update, where I put the weights used, the sets, the reps, the RPE, as well as a little hindsight as to how the training went over the course of the week. I'll also leave a link to the Barbell Medicine crew. Check them out, where you can get the Powerbuilding 2 digital template along with a bunch of other digital templates and a host of other free resources. Definitely check them out. And wrapping up, if you want to catch the first couple of weeks, I'll leave some links, maybe actually here and here. And this has been Solomon from WynnStrength, and remember, a better life through strength.